Hey, Family Matters with Kevin
What's
Peterson.
up? How you doing,
How are
baby?
you?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you very much.
I am on the East Coast with you. I'm up in Baltimore, seeing a facility up in Maryland. So, welcome to the East Coast. We're both on the East Coast. I feel like I'm part of your family now. So,
Wow. All right.
Go creepo, Kevin. I do it all the time. Instagram, Kevin W. Peterson, family coaching, chronichope.us. There's all kinds of free resources. If you want to reach out to Kevin directly there, that's a great avenue. They don't charge your credit card just by logging on. So reach out. There's a Facebook group that Kevin has spearheaded just for families. You don't have any of those marketers getting in the way, i.e. Jay Staples. So
none of the riffraff.
Yeah, so, and then not to be, I don't think, let's see if this is going to work, but you have something coming up with Harmony.
Hey,
with families that are struggling with addiction and codependency. Is it June 28th?
Yeah, it's June 28th at
2 p.m.
Eastern. Yeah.
So
I'm giving a talk.
Yeah. All Zoom. We'll get you that information there. But yeah, so along with Harmony Foundation, am I right in saying that?
Yeah. Harmony's sponsoring it. So yeah,
okay.
That's the whole. It's all about how to families and addiction and how to work with them and where to go with that.
And you can get, and if you're licensed, you can get. Can you get credits?
Yeah, you get a CEU. Yep.
All right, perfect. So. All kinds of things on Kevin Peterson's docket, and then every Wednesday we do a little show called Family Matters. So all different sorts of types of ways. That's a Zoom meeting, so you can log on too. We'll get you the information too. Just drop us a quick email, and then we'll be pushing that. We'll get you a link next week and stuff like that. So producer Jay has just not been on the ball with the traveling. So but anyway, Kevin, I'm just going to relax, going to take a couple deep breaths, but I will say families continually every week continue to reach out with questions. So I know we're doing some good work or something like that. And so I kind of just wanted to, what I've found is these questions kind of overlap, and a lot of the answers to some of the, most of the questions kind of have the same kind of framework. And is there like a topic on mind? I just kind of want to give you an open forum as, I know the families would appreciate just kind of touching on some topics every week. Is there a topic that kind of comes to mind?
Well, it is school's out, and so I think for families that have kids that are in school or college that are coming home or going to be home, I'm sure a lot of them are kind of like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And how are we going to keep them busy? And how do we keep them on the straight and narrow path, or at least, not into too much trouble? And, I think the truth is to sit and talk to them, sit and talk to them and tell them what your expectations are. Tell them what your boundaries are. Hey, look, we're not okay with this. We're not okay with that. We're okay with this. We're okay with that. And we will be checking. That's the most important thing, is when you tell your kids, hey, this is where we stand. This is what we're thinking, whether it's curfew, cell phones, screen time, drugs, alcohol, whatever. You have to be able to enforce that. You have to be able to hold them accountable to it. Otherwise, it's like driving down the road where the speed is posted at 35 miles an hour and you're going 65 and there's a cop shooting radar and you blow by him and he just waves, and that doesn't work. We gotta get a situation where the people, you're holding them accountable, but you don't got to do it with a big stick. You don't got to come in and be angry and punitive and I'm going to mess your life up and teach you a lesson. And oh my God, it's really about having an opportunity to sit down and talk to them and say, hey man, here's the deal. We love you. And we want to let you know, these are the rules and these are the regulations. And this is how it's going to go. And if you violate them, this is what's going to happen. And if you don't violate them, this is what's going to happen, and it's not about bribing. I don't believe in bribing, but it's just about holding your kids accountable with love and empathy and compassion. So there, how's that?
Good, good. And this is, I guess I'm a little. I hate to say that I'm getting to be old, but I mean, what comes to mind is this is right about the time when the grades came out, the final grades came out and got in the mail or something. But nowadays, I think you can check it nonstop each and every week and so forth like that. Back in the day, or maybe I wasn't even aware of it because I was probably avoiding it. But this is right about the time when those grades came out, and I would have to come up with the clever, cunning story as to what really happened.
Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you. That's really not what you think it is.
And occasionally altering some report cards and then getting caught because I'm terrible. But anyway, this is my story. But yeah, it's I get, I'm sure we're all getting the calls. The grades are coming in, and all of a sudden, mom and dad realize that the old, what has he been doing this past year? So
yeah, exactly. How did this happen? Yeah.
So well, let's get right into the questions. I know people. My friend is addicted to hard drugs, and I'm scared she's not there too mentally secure. She's refusing any mention of help when I bring it up. She's estranged from her family, but know they can afford help. So this is that last sentence is kind of the Kevin Peterson. I mean, what do you do with kind of an estranged family and kind of this is a friend and kind of trying to see what are the process of reaching out? Do you reach out? Do you not get in the way? Do you, butt out?
That's a tough one. I mean, if we don't know what the situation with the family is. We don't know if they've tried and gotten nowhere, or they've tried and spent a fortune and just feel like, you know what, we've done everything we can. So, and we don't know, when she says the family's estranged, we don't really know what that means. Are they following my directions and setting boundaries and saying, we love you, we're ready when you are? However, I think when somebody is doing hard drugs, like the really, the stuff you can die from on a regular usage, I think that's when we really got to start talking about a bigger step of doing an intervention and just sort of, carting them off to treatment and not doing sort of like a soft intervention or we're going to have a big family chat. And it's like, no, we're past that time. This person could die at any time. So I think it's really more significant to step in and be like, hey, look, here's the deal. Now, you as her friend, what I would say is it's an opportunity to sit there and say, I love you, but I'm not okay with this. And I would like to see you get some help. And I'll walk through the process with you. As your friend, I would never abandon you if you're willing to get help. If you're not willing to get help, I can't stick around and watch this, bomb go off. So it's kind of the same thing that I tell families. You can very calmly and lovingly say, I love you, but I need you to take this seriously and I need you to get some help. And if you want to get help, I'll help you get help. But if you don't want to get help, then I'm just going to have to stand back and be like, I love you, but I'm not going to participate in this because I know where it's going and I don't want to be part of that. Hard choices. I mean, these are really hard choices.
Well, it's tough to know the whole, we get these questions and keep the questions coming. This is not a complaint. It's just tough to know the whole, like you said, the whole story. But, as a friend, I mean, I'm getting more and more calls from friends and so forth. I mean, the concern is there. There's always can be, a guy like Kevin Peterson or, any one of us can kind of make that original phone call and maybe have the friend on the line and kind of just talk it out and just kind of a game plan and see where that estrangement is. But again, we do not know the situation, but as always, thank you for the concern as a friend. I'm just telling you, I've had a lot of friends pop in my life with concern. So much along the same lines, we got a mother of an addict. Our family has done everything we can to help. So this is a long email. Again, there's only so many characters, but, so this mom is using the words codependency and tough love and interventions and, treatment. I mean, it sounds as if they've done the treatment. They've done, like their son in the mom's eyes is just not willing, doesn't even want to take a look at sobriety. And so, she has all these buzzwords. She's really, you hear tough love and, as a mom, it's always tough. I get this conversation all the time. And so, the mom is kind of, what is it with a son, a daughter, someone that's just really not willing. They did an intervention years ago, according to the email. They're tough love. They've kind of cut him off. He's not welcome at home. They're not really paying anything, but he's just doing what addicts do and surviving kind of as we do, couch surfing and stuff like that. So this is kind of the framework of Chronic Hope, really kind of just giving moms and dads and loved ones hope. For a mom, where you sat with, like kind of the tough love.
So I totally get where she's coming from, and I get. By the way, this is exactly what I get a lot of the time. And I want to be really clear. I don't believe in tough love. It doesn't work. It's like bullying someone. And it just doesn't flow. And my position is that what you can do is sit them down and just have a direct conversation and say, you know what, you're an adult. You're going to do what you're going to do. But I want to be clear. If you're going to choose the drug and alcohol lifestyle, you're going to do it on your own dime, in your own home, in your own world, in your own place. And it's not going to be, I'm not going to be funding it. We're not going to be participating in it. It's not going to be here. So, if you're an adult, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Knock yourself out. Now, I want to be clear also, if you want to get help, we'll help you get help. But no, we are not abandoning you. We're not tough loving you. We're not slamming the door in your face and saying, we never want to talk to you again. That crap doesn't work. What we're saying is we love you, but the answer is no. But if you want to get help, we will move heaven and earth for you. We will be happy to help you. We always love you. And of course, we'll always talk to you. We'll always hear what you have to say. We may meet you for a cup of coffee or something. We're never going to give you money. We're not going to buy you a car. We're not going to cover your bills. We're not going to bail you out of jail. We're not going to pay for no, we're not going to do any of those things. You get yourself into it, you get yourself out of it. However, again, to repeat the theme, if you want to get help, we'll help you get help. I have families that I work with today that say, well, what do I say to them? I say, well, if you want to talk about getting help and getting into recovery, I'm happy to talk to you about that. Otherwise, I really don't have anything else to say. And you just have to get used to that, because once you can have that repetitive theme with them with love and empathy and compassion, they'll understand. And there's no guarantee that it's going to work, and there's no guarantee that they're going to choose it. But we're just talking about these are the options. That's
Amen.
it.
Amen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's third question. This is kind of welcome to the world and kind of heartbreaking at the same time. So when did kids using drugs become normalized?
Oh.
I was named the guardian for my 12-year-old niece and 15-year-old nephew due to my sister's own drug abuse. It's all around these kids nowadays. And so here is kind of a new mom, and kind of, I think she's married as well. And so got skipped right to the 12 and 15-year-old age. And I mean, I came from this just say no kind of era. I mean, I knew when I was doing drugs and abusing prescription, I was doing something wrong, but it just seems like today it's been normalized. I love this question. It's heartbreaking at the same time. So it's tough. I mean, you got a new mom, but you got, when did drugs become normalized, Kevin?
Well, yeah, like you, I grew up in the era where they were like, that's a bad choice. And I was like, yeah, I know. And I had no problem with it. This is kind of, so having lived in Colorado in 2014, when they legalized recreational marijuana, this was one of the unintended backlashes or consequences of legalizing a drug, or something we consider a drug. And because now it became, it's no big deal. It's like alcohol. It's like cigarettes. I mean, you shouldn't be doing that, but whatever, it's no big deal. And that really is what happened. My nieces were actually, those ages are actually a little bit younger. And the reports I started getting from my sister is she's like, oh my God, these kids are showing up stoned. They're showing up on edibles. They're getting into their parents' stash. They're buying their own. I mean, it's just, what we didn't realize, what we did is made it, readily accessible to everyone. So that's what I would say is kind of the answer to that question. I mean, I fight the battle of it's not normalized. It's not okay. I don't care that everybody's doing it. That just doesn't fly with me. And so the answers really are for this aunt who's now become the mom. And by the way, I totally get that. I've worked with so many families that have ended up taking over somebody else's kids. And, there's a special place in heaven for people that raise other people's kids, And what I would tell her is, this is one of those situations where you have to take the lead and be the adult. Set the boundary, no drugs, no alcohol. If you think they're violating it, you got to test them, and you got to have consequences. And the consequences initially are, hey, look, we're going to start clamping down on the social life, the phone, the screen time, cars, if there's cars. And if that doesn't work, then we take it to the next level and we start looking at treatment programs, and that's really the path. And people always, a lot of times people want to avoid that, or like, oh, that seems really drastic, or that seems a little overwhelming. I'm like, I get it. I understand. But here's the thing. If we can get on this ASAP and really establish the boundary and make it clear that there's consequences behind the boundary, then accountability and consequences, then we're going to make a difference, But if all we do is just talk about it and, then nothing happens. And that's what I get. I get a lot of families. They're like, look, we want to be honest. We haven't enforced the consequences. We're afraid to. And I'm like, I know, because you want them to be your buddy. In this situation, right, the aunt's going to be like, oh my God, look at the horrible situation they have. Think of all the terrible things they've had to deal with. And I totally agree with that, but that doesn't make it okay. Doesn't give them a pass. Still got to enforce it. So that's really the situation.
No. God bless her. Just kind of, I can only imagine. I'm mid-40s, and if I just was, had a 12 and 15-year-old or whatever, or just any cage, I think I would just be in a shock in itself. But this last question, kind of touches on, I'm glad this question came in because it was always on my mind. So my 16-year-old son was caught at a friend's house party drinking. Parents were out of town, and all parents were called to pick up their kids. I've been there, done that, can relate to this. My son got electronics and going out on weekends taken away. So they're in the process. This is a long email again. So, no electronics, no going out on the weekends. This, I think, happened 2-3 weeks ago. So it's an ongoing, undetermined length of kind of punishment, but her comment here is like, she seems to be like in the minority, like everyone else, like even the friends' parents who left at the house. They're kind of like, it touches on the previous, this mom is basically outcrying, saying like, what happened? Why are we the bad parents? Because we stepped in, did some hard boundaries with no electronics, and, and their friends who have done the same thing are like, they're just kids. Sometimes I think you need to be a miracle worker, but these are the calls we're getting, and I can relate to this mom that's saying, man, like we're getting the finger pointed at, like look at Marge and whatever. Making these names up, like they're punishing their kids for just a little mistake, and it goes to this whole normalized now. What you got, Kevin?
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. When my nieces were in high school, or in junior high and high school, this situation came up, and my sister was like, hey, what do we do? And I'm like, well, you know where I stand. You don't got to lock them up and put them in the basement, but you got to start holding them accountable, and you got to start doing it with love and compassion, and you got to start doing it with consequences and rewards. And we had a lot of long talks about that. And my sister was like, I got to tell you, I'm the only one. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I said, but the flip side of it is your kids are the ones that are not, off the deep end, and then unfortunately there were some pretty awful things that happened to some of their friends because of this. And my sister was like, yeah, this crap's not happening. Look, my nieces had active social lives, dated, had friends, went to parties, went to prom, did all that stuff. My sister was just really clear, no drinking, no drugs. That's not part of the options here, and And one of my favorite things was, she's like, what if somebody wants to, what if one of these guys wants to date one of your nieces? I'm like, oh, that's fine. Tell him that the first thing he has to do is come over and have dinner with the family. I mean, that'll weed out about 50% of them right off the bat. They'll just be like, I'm not, no thanks. That one guy literally showed up at the door and like drove up in his car and started honking for my niece. And my sister walked out the door and was like, get your ass in the house. And he was like, oh okay. So it's about teaching kids what's okay, what's not okay, holding that boundary. And then in that process, what you're teaching them is self-respect, integrity, and dignity, and self-esteem. And I'm not stupid. I know my nieces drank. I know they partied. I know they had fun. I know they did stuff. But they also had they had a place where they could go and talk about that. They could go. They actually did go to my sister and say, "We're having trouble with these situations. What do I do? How do I get help?" Not so much with them, but with some friends and that sort of thing. And so that's the important thing. Everybody's doing it is just the lamest of lame excuses. We don't buy that. Well, that's great, but you don't live with everybody. You live with me. It's my house, it's my rules, and I'm going to enforce those rules. And if you break the rules, I just want to be clear, this is what's going to happen. And it's not because I hate you, it's because I love you, and it's my job to protect you. So I know that's kind of old school 1950s, leave it to Beaver, but that's the truth is, parenting is parenting. When you get to the end of the day, parenting is parenting. It's not about being your kid's best friend. It's not about, I want my kids to love me and care. I don't want my kids to be, I've heard people, they say, I don't want them to be mad at me. And I'm like, if your kids aren't mad at you, you're not doing your job. If I wasn't cursing my parents at least once or twice a week, there was something missing, and so, you can still be the cool mom and the cool dad and still have boundaries and hold them accountable.
Well, it's just, the world needs Kevin Peterson. I'm just telling you, like, just reading these questions, and it just gives me a really good foundation. As far as just the parenting and the issues at hand, and I went through it, and God bless my mom and dad. I think, after every one of these shows, I think I call my mom and just say thank you for all the, she had the tough love. She doesn't think that she did enough. She believes, according to Al-Anon, that she enabled me for far too long, but she only knew what she was, so, but yeah, there was house parties, and there was my mom calling other moms, getting them on board to say, hey, let's really come down on people. So, oh,
hey, my friend Andrea, who I went to USC with.
Friend's son asked for accountability so he could get used to it as a reason to give the other kid for why he wasn't using drugs, etc. with them. My friend's son asked for accountability. Wow.
Funny story. So funny story. One of my nieces actually came to my sister and said, hey, and it was very similar. It wasn't about the drugs, but it was about she was kind of getting bullied and some inappropriate stuff from a guy on the phone. And so my niece had no idea how to respond to this. And so she gave the phone to her mother and was like, help. And my sister was like, oh, I'll handle this. And so nothing wrong with kids asking for the mom and dad for some protection. And Andrea, this is a great opportunity to talk about this. So this is a kid that obviously has a good relationship with his parents and understands that, hey, I need you to hold me accountable and make it clear so that I can go back to my peer group and be like, yeah, I can't do that, because if I do, I'll never see you again. I'll be, what was the TV show, Grounded for Life? I will literally be grounded for life. So I think that's a kid that's taking a lot of responsibility. It's obviously a kid that's been raised well. And that impresses me. And that's good parenting. Kids are a reflection of the parents. Let's just be honest, and they just are, the behaviors, and so, that's the thing is, it's easily corrected. So, yes, he got caught smoking.
We got sat for, high school. Like we were always scared. People were doing it, but it was like always that threat. Like, I'm going to call the school and let them know you're drinking as kind of this threat. You know, the big football player, we would never do it because we want to win on Friday nights. But I mean, it's really quite shocking to me. Like, there was a no tolerance. Like, if you got caught underage, whatever, like, you sat for one or two of the high school games. I mean, and that was just a school regulation. So,
oh yeah, no, absolutely. Andrea follows up with, yes, he got caught smoking pot, etc. And I would never cross your sister, Kevin. I wouldn't either, man. It's a no-win situation.
just an incredible conversation, Andrea. Thank you so much. And I just love these shows, and we're doing something right. And so go see chronichope.us. Go. This is where Kevin is. Go creep him on Instagram, Kevin W. Peterson. TikTok, whatever it is, we're going to be doing this. We're going to probably be doing a lot more on social media. Kevin and I are always talking about doing some questions on Instagram, and we're going to do all kinds of social media. So look for us. Keep the questions coming, because this show is only as powerful as the questions keep coming in. So let's keep doing it. I'm going to keep showing up, and thank you so much for the questions. It really brightened. I mean, it just for me reading them, and then I cut it down and show Kevin's response, the email to everyone that sent it in. So please, if you're watching a replay, don't hesitate. It doesn't have to be live. Send in a comment. So yeah, Kevin. So you even got on the show, Kevin.
I'm just saying thanks.
Double. Yeah.
I'm literally,
I don't see who it is, but let's do this again next week. And Wednesday, I'll be back in my beloved Dallas, Texas, in my central time zone, where I get really, really comfortable. But Kevin, always a pleasure.
Great to see you. Have a good time. I want to hear about your trip. Talk to you later.
All right.